everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Nina, and here at this channel we talk all about mental health, personal development, and understanding our own psychology. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I keep getting requests for, which is why your life never changes and why you are unable to reach your goals. Now, I will be talking about the top 10 reasons why we do fail and, of course, how to fix it. But please keep in mind that these are things that I see over and over and over again in the lives of my clients and also in my own life. So these are things that are all completely transformable. So please watch the video through a lens of self-love, self-understanding, self-compassion, and certainly a sense of humor, because there are likely many things on this list that you are going to be able to relate to. Now I'm going to get straight to the topic today, but I just want to quickly point out that reaching goals and kind of the theme of self-development as a whole are really essential to living a life that is fulfilling and happy, because when we do not grow or expand or really try to improve ourselves, it's not that our life stays the same. For most people, it tends to get progressively a little bit worse by day. And that is because we get bored, we get lazy, we get older, and our life situations change or become more challenging. So if we are not actively trying to improve our life, it is very likely that we're going to suffer a lot of negative consequences. So that being said, let's go ahead and get straight to this list. The first thing that can happen is called action faking. Now, this is a concept that was originally developed by an author named MJ DeMarco, and I do have a full video about action faking. It is an incredibly interesting topic and absolutely something that was keeping me from reaching my own goals. So I'll go ahead and link that video in the description box below, just in case you want to learn a little bit more about it. But basically what's happening when we are action faking is that we are tricking ourselves into thinking that we are making progress towards a goal when really that is not the case. So we're going to do a lot of external things that are likely very related to that goal, but we're not taking the necessary action. So for many people, that looks like endlessly preparing or endlessly researching things, or doing some of the preliminary things like getting a gym membership but not going to the gym, or reading all about meditation but not actually attempting it. This is something that I see all the time with clients that come to see me for decluttering their home. Now, what happens a lot of times is that they have spent a lot of money, they have spent a lot of time and energy, but they're not doing the actual task. So they have probably bought a lot of organizational systems, or they have watched hours and hours of programming on decluttering, but yet their house is still a mess, because without taking the necessary action, there's not actually going to be progress. The second thing is not using the SMART system when you are making goals. So this is simply an acronym that helps us to remember that our goals have to be specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. And if we are missing any one of these elements, it is likely we are going to fail to reach that goal. So let's start with the S, which is for specific. So for example, we don't want to have a kind of vague goal of, I want to lose weight. Let's get very specific here. Who, what, when, where, why. So let's say the goal would be instead, I want to lose 15 pounds within 6 months. Then we can even break it up into more specific goals, which is extremely helpful. So for example, we could say that I want to eliminate refined sugar, and I want to make sure that I exercise 4 times a week for 30 minutes. So when we have these specific goals, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to be able to achieve them. Then we can move on to the second part of that, which is making sure that the goal is measurable. So in this case, it certainly is. We can track and measure whether or not we are steadily losing weight. We can track whether or not we are giving up sugar. We can, write down how much sugar we've had each day. And then also we can certainly have a chart that we can write down whether or not we worked out. And by having these goals so specific and measurable, it really helps us to see with our own eyes whether or not we are making progress. When we see we are making progress, it is going to give us motivation to go forward. When we have these vague goals and we have no idea if we're really making progress or not, it's not very likely that we're going to have the motivation to keep going. The third thing that we have to do is make sure the goal itself is actually achievable. Now, I am someone that loves to dream big. I love to set big goals. However, I do make sure that they are realistic. It doesn't matter the person. We just have to know that if the work is put in, that this is a goal that can actually be reached. Because if not, we are simply setting ourselves up for failure. The fourth thing we have to consider is whether or not the goal is relevant. So if something is taking up a lot of time but really isn't something that's that important or necessary in our life, we are going to lose motivation because who cares? It doesn't really matter if we reach the goal. Maybe we thought about something that we would like to do but really doesn't enhance our life directly. It is not likely that we are going to reach that goal. And the last part of the SMART equation is making sure the goal is time bound. So I'm sure you have noticed in your own life, when you do not give yourself a deadline, you never actually get to that goal because it's not a pressing need. When you know instead that this goal must be reached by June 1st, let's say if we were going with that weight loss goal, that you have an occasion on June 1st that you need to be wearing the specific outfit that you are excited to wear, you know that you will reach that goal because you have a deadline. When it's completely open-ended, there's really not likely a chance that you are going to meet that goal ever because there is nothing pushing you to do so. So it can be a motivational factor when it is specifically time-bound. Number 3 is failing to have an action plan. Now, we can have really great intentions, but still completely be at a loss at what we should actually be doing to reach this goal. It doesn't matter how excited or motivated we are when we do not have an action plan. Now, this is something that I noticed in my own life when I was about 15 or 16 and starting to learn the guitar. I had teachers initially who kept me on track, who gave me a specific lesson plan week by week. But when I decided to stop taking lessons, and I can't remember why I made that decision, but I really had no idea what to practice, and I really did not make progress because I didn't know what techniques I should be working on, for how long. I didn't know what my specific goals should be, so I ended up wasting tons of time and again made very little progress. I'm actually surprised that I did not give up on the instrument entirely, but things are very different now because I understand that I do have to utilize the SMART method and I have to have that action plan. So I have a very regimented schedule which tells me exactly what I should be practicing every day for exactly how long, so I can just follow right along and I'm always progressing. I can actively see that progress. But if I used that same strategy of just, picking up the guitar and doing whatever, it's not very likely that I'm ever going to get any better. The fourth thing that happens is that people give up way too soon. I think what's important here is to realize that it is going to take time to reach this goal. It's not going to happen overnight. We do not have a magic wand. It's not like the movies. And also, there's going to be setbacks. There are going to be challenges. There's also going to be a natural resistance from our brain and our body because it doesn't like when we make changes. And so we have to adjust for that as well. We also have to keep in mind that we come from a culture that is completely hooked on instant gratification. We can have a package from Amazon within 2 days. Instead of working on our fitness goals, we could just take a picture and just stick a filter on it. So we are used to all these quick fixes. But unfortunately, when we are looking to truly make meaningful changes in our life, it's not going to happen overnight. So we have to be realistic about that. The fifth thing that can happen is that we're waiting to feel motivated. Now this one might be the most common one of all. In fact, I have a whole video about this. Again, I will link it down in the description box below. It's called Don't Wait for Inspiration, because we have to realize that motivation and inspiration is very likely never to come. We may never feel actually motivated or inspired to reach this goal. So really the key thing here is that what inspires motivation and what inspires inspiration is actually action. When we take action and we start to see progress and we start to build momentum, then it gives us motivation because we see progress and we start to get more excited and we start to get more involved in the goal itself, and then it keeps going as a very positive feedback loop. But if we try to do it in the opposite way, you're never going to write that novel, you're never going to clean that house, you're never going to get that degree, because you're never going to have that motivation that is consistent enough for you to keep going. You have to start by taking that action, and if you do that, you're going to find that the motivation and inspiration really do come. Now, one trick that I have found when you're having a day where you really are feeling a lot of resistance, you do not want to take action. You don't want to take, even the smallest of actions towards that goal. So something I found that helps me is to have a list of other things that need to get done. Probably not your favorite types of things, but if you can start building momentum by doing another task, let's say it's cleaning the bathroom, when you start to get into the flow of moving and working, this is something that's easily transferable to something else. Number 6 is that your life is simply too overwhelming. Now, when this is the case, you simply can't take on new things because you're really on the verge of burnout. It's not realistic to think that you're going to be able to reach new goals and to rise to new challenges, because you really have something that needs to be addressed right now. So in these cases, the goal needs to be addressing these issues. What is causing the overwhelm? What is causing the burnout? These are the things that we need to address before we can move on to other things. And usually when these things are addressed, it makes it a lot easier to move on to other things. But the priority always has to be our mental health. And a lot of times we may be kind of feeling miserable because of the situation going on in our life. So we come up with all these goals that we think are going to make us feel better. But again, we really can't get to these external goals before we address what is going on internally. Number 7 is that the goal conflicts with our self-concept. So here, we don't believe we can change. We think of ourselves as one way. We have a self-concept, and probably a very negative self-concept that has been with us for quite some time. And we simply don't buy into the fact that we could be a different way. We see there's a big gap between how we are now, or how we were in the past, and what we think the goal requires us to be. A lot of times we just don't buy into that fact that we could actually make these changes. So we self-sabotage, or we give the goal a half-hearted attempt because we don't believe it's actually possible. And I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely possible. It may take a lot of work to get there, but we can be, do, or have pretty much anything if we are willing to do what it takes to reach that goal. But that is not possible until we are ready to get rid of and let go of that past version of ourself and that outdated self-concept. We have to develop a new self-concept. Number 8 is that the goal is not meaningful enough to us. Now, this is something that we kind of touched upon in the SMART goals, where we were talking about the goal needing to be relevant. But when something is not meaningful to us, when we don't really believe it's going to change our life and greatly impact us, why would we ever put the time and effort into reaching it? It's never going to happen. And for so many people, they don't put the critical thought into their goals, and they don't really get real with themselves about why that goal would be meaningful to them. And if we can do that, we're always going to find a way to reach that goal, because it is meaningful to us. When it's something that's really superficial or it doesn't really matter, it's never going to happen. Number 9 is failing to make habits. Now, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you know that I talk all the time about habits. Habits are the key to changing our life. And so many people think that they can make changes on the surface, or they can do things 1 or 2 times, and that's going to be enough. But if we want to see consistent and, impactful change in our life, we have to change our lifestyle through changing our habits. Now, people don't want to do this a lot of times because it requires, I'm going to say, even suffering sometimes to actually create habits, because we are going against what the body wants to do. Until it's actually a habit, this behavior change for us gives us anxiety. It makes us feel uncomfortable because our body loves to go on autopilot. If it's up to our body and our brain, it's just going to want to do the same exact thing every single day. So we have to develop habits by repeating the new behavior over and over and over again until it becomes that actual habit. And once it's a habit, we are golden. It's just part of our life. We don't have to think about it because that is what a habit actually is. It's behavior that we don't need to think about. It's kind of unconscious. So once we can have all the steps to get towards our goal be habits, we are on a great path to reaching that goal. And number 10 is all or nothing thinking. Now, this is something that I see all the time from my clients, and absolutely something I am guilty of myself if I am not careful. But with all or nothing thinking, which is also called black and white thinking, we are always in extremes. We either feel like we are doing amazing on the goal or we are a complete failure. We don't really think about progress, we think about perfection. And when that happens, of course, we're going to want to give up, because if we're not exactly where we had hoped to be at this moment in time, we may throw in the towel because we think it is worthless, even if we've made a lot of progress along the way. So going back to that fitness or that weight loss goal, for example, let's say that we had a cookie that day and we're really upset at ourselves that we had that cookie. But instead of just making a better choice for the next food we eat, we just say, it's too late anyway, I'm just gonna have a cheat day and we're going to eat whatever we want. And maybe we'll even make it into a cheat week. And so what happens is it's very difficult for us to get back on that train once we've broken our stride, once we have kind of deviated from our habit. So we want to make sure that we are progressing slowly, and be aware that there are certainly going to be days where you don't want to do the things that are necessary towards achieving your goals. There are going to be days that are cheat days. There are going to be days where you make mistakes or you feel like you have fallen short, and that is fine. But that shouldn't be an excuse to just throw in the towel. It's not either or. It's just making those tiny steps forward day by day by day. If we always do that and just make the best choices that we can, eventually we will reach that goal. So I really hope today's video was eye-opening, and I'm curious to see if any of these things are things that you feel have been barriers to your own success. Now for me, like I said, there are many of these that I really have to actively fight against, so it is really beneficial to have an awareness that these things really can set us back, and so we can kind of look out for them and also work through them. So as always, I truly hope today's video was helpful to you. If it was, please like it, share it, definitely become a subscriber. We want you to stay connected, and I hope the rest of your day is absolutely extraordinary.